Hello, we are in Genesis chapter 9. We are going to continue with verse 18. Now, last time we were talking about the Noahic covenant, the covenant between Noah and God and what it entailed. But now, this section is going to talk about Noah's descendants, or rather, the curses and blessings of Noah. So, verse 18. The sons of Noah who went forth from the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the people of the whole earth were dispersed. Noah began to be a man of the soil, and he planted a vineyard. He drank of the wine and became drunk and lay uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and taught his two brothers outside. Then Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on both their shoulders, and walked backwards and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned backwards, and they did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah woke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done to him, had said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall be to his brothers." Excuse me. I find it interesting that the expression, the father of Canaan, has been mentioned a couple of times here. But the question is, how do you translate an obscure text? Because the text is not explicit as to what really happened there, but you have to ask the question, what caused Noah to curse the descendants of his son Ham? So I was reading into it, and according to a certain methodology, you can draw a parallel between this story and the story of creation and what happened at the fall. And it's already been mentioned that yes, it's almost like there was a first creation, but this is almost like a second creation, because God had pretty much destroyed all living things, and now everything's let's say newly created. Life is allowed to flourish once again. So if you look at the characters of Eve and Ham, they both were tempted by their eyes, and they both asked others to join them in whatever they were doing. So Eve invited Adam to eat from the apple, and Ham invited his two brothers to be part of the events. Now the question is, what happened? Well, some reckon that there was something between Ham and the mother, the wife of Noah, and the reason is, if you read Leviticus 18:8, it says, "You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife. It is your father's nakedness." So the nakedness of the father is actually the nakedness of your mother, or the father's wife, rather. And Leviticus 3:11 says, "If a man lies with his father's wife, he has uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon them." Interestingly, that's what Paul is arguing in 1 Corinthians 5, that somebody in the church had done this and how much of an issue it was. But coming back to this story, so one could argue, let's say, that these are the laws in Leviticus, but Noah knew the difference between clean and unclean animals, even though the text doesn't explicitly say that God had taught him about clean and unclean animals. So he had some sort of an idea of the Mosaic or Levitical law. So some reckon that perhaps Noah and his wife got drunk, fell asleep, and then Ham came in and raped the mother. Now, the thing is that the text doesn't explicitly say that, Some, it could also be argued, they say the way the text flows, that the text suggests what they could do. So Ham suggested what they could do. It was sort of a suggestion. But in any case, the two brothers didn't want to partake in it, that hence walking backwards, even turning their eyes away so they wouldn't see the father's nakedness, and by implication the mother's nakedness if she was there. But in verse 25 it says, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall be to his brothers." And he also said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant." So why is Canaan cursed when it was Ham who did these things? Now, some argue that, first of all, the author wasn't under any obligation to record what happened to Ham in terms of being cursed by Noah. The other thing is, they reckon it is not a prophecy, but rather a patriarchal pronouncement. So God wasn't obligated to curse Canaan, or to bring it, to make it come true, because it didn't come from him. Some people reckon none of this is true. It's more like this story, it shows a parallel between, which is what's already been argued. It shows a parallel between the fall and sort of a second creation. And what happened here shows that Ham, the father of Canaan, he wasn't worried about the nakedness of his father, whereas the two brothers were. Hence they tried to cover the nakedness. So they were sort of like Adam and Eve, who were ashamed of their nakedness in their fallen state, because we are now in a fallen state. Everybody's born into a fallen state, brother. So you have these two kind of reactions, and they reckon that it is actually the problem is not to be worried about your nakedness now in a fallen state, because there's a law about altars in Exodus 20. And in verse 26, God says, "You shall not go up by steps to my altar, that your nakedness be not exposed on it." God didn't want the priest's nakedness to be exposed. In any case, I think it's interesting to because that text might be a bit strange when somebody comes across it, and why was it an issue that why did it involve to be cursed? Why did Canaan had to be cursed? It's difficult to tell, but in any case, God allowed for humans to be sort of multiplied again, like he said it in a previous chapter. We don't know what exactly happened here, but as verse 28 says, "After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. All the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died." Again, really difficult to tell, but it's an ancient book written thousands of years ago. There are books that are really difficult to understand even in a contemporary society, let alone the books written generations ago. I think what's interesting about this story is if you look at Canaan. Now Canaan is going to be the people where eventually God brings out the people from Egypt to the land of Canaan, and this is going to be the place of their blessing, and this is where Jerusalem is, in the land of Canaan. This is where Israel is today. So this is where the events are going to continue in the New Testament. Amen.